Okay, so listen, thanks to everyone who's here. There's a few familiar faces. Look, I understand it's the 2nd of August. I myself are actually, I'm actually away at the moment, hence the sort of backdrop and more blurry screen than usual. So apologies for that. And I'm also without my monitor. So if you feel like I'm right on top of you, I also apologize for that as well. But look, we really wanted to do this, obviously. The lead-in time to the course starting is now about 3 weeks. And myself and Dermot and Alan, who are here tonight on behalf of PAT Business School Compliance Institute and part of the faculty that will be delivering the program or the course, whichever you prefer, we really wanted to do this. And to be honest with you, I can also say we wouldn't be doing it tonight if we weren't really excited about the potential in what we're going to speak about over the next hour or so. I promise you we will be finished by 7 o'clock at the latest. Obviously, if we get through the content and there isn't a lot of Q&A at the end, we can finish a little bit earlier. We're not holding you hostage till 7 o'clock. So just to start things off, I might just share a few slides. And anyone knows me, I am quite minimalistic about my slides. So can you see those slides on the screen, Dermot? It should say.
Yeah, we got them. Yeah,
cool.
It's the Word document, right?
Oh no. Okay, let me come out and come back. Sorry, this is the perpetual travails of working with Zoom. Can you see that now, Dermot? It should be.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I'll just go to the slideshow for good order from the beginning. So look, obviously this is it. This is where we're here. You know, some of you in the audience attending tonight may have already signed up. We have actually had quite a healthy sign-up rate already. Doesn't mean we're close to applicants. We're certainly not. But this is why we're here. DORA, and obviously all of you have some interest in DORA, or you wouldn't be here, or you wouldn't have registered for tonight. Tonight obviously being recorded and will be shared. So if you have registered, even if you're not in attendance tonight, you'll get the recording tomorrow. Who's here tonight to talk about the course itself? Me, myself, who some of you know, I always like to use the word so-called director of all things fintech and financial services at PAT Business School. Mr. Kennedy is here representing the Compliance Institute, but Dermot is also very much my co-conspirator in all of this. And Alan Barry, as you can see, CEO, founder of Fund Elements, and Alan is going to be an important part of the delivery. Unfortunately, Michelle Maguire, who will be the major, if you like, faculty on the delivery over the 6 weeks, couldn't make it tonight. Also, for full disclosure, which is very much my kind of style, Paul O'Loughlin from On Post, who some of you may have seen in the brochure or on the website. Unfortunately, Paul is now unable to be part of the delivery for this time round. I think we'll definitely see Paul at a future date. So there will be some additional members of faculty joining the team, some tried and trusted faces that I think really represent the best people to deliver what we're going to try and achieve. And that's basically what we want to talk about tonight. So a little bit of an agenda, the welcomes, as I'm trying to do now. I'm then going to hand over to Dermot, who can introduce himself more properly and can talk about the role of the Compliance Institute. Generally, as obviously being a professional body for compliance, risk and compliance professionals, but also very much in the context of what we're trying to do here, Dermot, and your involvement in the design and the delivery of this new course. And it really is new in, I think, every possible way. Again, something we want to tease out over the next 40 minutes or so. I'm going to talk a little bit about the course design. Dermot might sort of join in with that a little bit. I'm then going to go through the overview of the course content and delivery, meaning how it's going to be delivered. Most of you probably know 6 weeks live online, but there's a little bit more to talk about. I do then have a fairly, I'd say, descriptive, quite detailed syllabus which maps out the 6 weeks of the delivery, and I'm just going to go through that. Not going to read it out line by line. I'm just going to give you a sense that we really have given this a tremendous amount of thought. Even actually before the call tonight, myself and Alan and Dermot just spent 45 minutes talking about what exactly we were hoping to get across to you this evening. And then, and this is where hopefully we join up some of the dots, I'm going to introduce Alan, and Alan's going to talk about the bigger concept about creating digital centres of excellence. And apologies, I do have a bit of a cold. And Alan will give you a little bit more, I think, context, which is also a really big word in everything we do, about what we're going to try and achieve over the 6 weeks and where that might leave you and what the next steps might be in your journey. And those of you who know me know that I often reference the individual, your learning journey, where are you now, where you're trying to get to. I will also, again, reference that. We've given this probably, I don't know, 6 months, Dermot, of thought and design, and we really are trying to be very practical and pragmatic about you, the individual, and where this can take you. And as I said earlier, where we can help you get to where you want to be in your learning journey as it relates to DORA. But we see this very much as a template of a new type of education, training, delivery. And this is why we're so excited about the first intake. And I'll say up front, and again, I make no apologies for saying this, and hopefully, again, the people who know me know that I try to be very transparent and honest about everything we do. It is the first time we're delivering it, so we are going to learn some lessons. You know, we will iterate. We always believe in the fact that you are always learning. And I think that applies, obviously, in a couple of different levels to why we're here tonight. So, on that note, Dermot, I might just hand over to you, and I'm going to share your slides. Can you see them on the screen?
Yeah, I got them. Thanks, Andrew.
I might just start you off, and if you just tell me when you want to roll on with the slides, I'll just roll them on for you.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. And we're very excited to partner with Pat FinTech, of course, Andrew, as part of this very exciting DORA course, Navigating Complexity. So I guess just myself, I joined Compliance Institute 4 months ago into my 5th month. And yeah, so I'm just going to talk about Compliance Institute briefly, introduce what we do, a little bit about our designations, and I guess why it's important for us to be part of this program. So we're the largest global association of compliance professionals in the world with 3,500 members, and we're offering the largest suite of compliance programs globally. If you move on to the next slide, Andrew, maybe I can actually move them myself, can I? Because I've got
you've got co-host, yes, David.
Yeah. Just very briefly on our mission and vision. So our mission is to equip compliance professionals with the necessary competence and skills to undertake their roles in a professional and ethical manner. And so our vision then just to be a network of vibrant and qualified professionals. And so that's why we really want to partner with Pat FinTech on this particular course, because we recognize the importance of DORA, the significance of DORA in the context of building operational resilience across for ICT across the financial services industry. And this is every day we're relying more and more on ICT, and it's just vitally important that everyone is prepared for DORA, which is already a regulation, but it comes into force from January 2025. So this ties in very nicely with our mission and our vision, and hence I guess our desire to be part of this this program. If you want, I'll move on. Actually, can I? No, you need to move on. I think, Andrew. Sorry. I won't spend much time on this one, but these are the membership benefits. So if you're not already a member of the Compliance Institute, I would encourage you to sign up. These are some of the benefits which you can read through here, but certainly in the context of career progression, being part of the wider Compliance Institute and being eligible to sign up for our various education programs, CPD designations, all of that. So maybe check out compliance.ie and have a look at these benefits in more detail. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and I can set up some time to chat with you about them in more detail. Next slide, Andrew, is designations. So I won't go through what's written there, but I think that designations are really they help you to build your professional brand. They really sort of I suppose I suppose, demonstrate your commitment to employers and your network, your commitment to ongoing learning and your desire to achieve higher standards. And so these can really, really help you. These designations can really, really help you progress and move to the next level of your career. And so in simple terms, of course, designations are letters after your name, but it's a commitment to keeping your skills up to date. So you complete continuous professional development modules, maybe 10 hours a year, something like that, in the case of some of our education offerings. And it means you're keeping your skills up to date. So these are really, really important, especially in the ever-changing world that is compliance, fraud, risk, and regulations generally. So we can go through these slides pretty quickly, Andrew. These are, we've got mandatory continuous professional development, a CPD regime for all of our designations, and this is just a commitment to keeping your skills updated. We hosted 37 events earlier in the year, but moving on to these designations, I won't go through all of them, but just to give you a feel, when you complete a designation, you will receive a digital badge, which you can share in your LinkedIn profile. That shows prospective employers what you've studied, what the course was, when you completed it, and it really helps you to validate. It's like that digital passport to validate your qualifications. So this one here is a certificate in fraud, risk, and compliance, which is delivered in conjunction with Pat FinTech as well. So yeah, these are all available to check out in more detail on our compliance.ie website. I would just say that our key strategic objective is to raise the profile of compliance professional in Ireland, and this is a hyper-growth area. It's obviously lots of exciting career opportunities in compliance and fraud, I suppose, risk generally in Ireland right now. So this is a really, really good time to be signing up to study a course like DORA. If you move on to next, and that's basically it. I won't spend too much time because I know we want to have a conversation tonight and take any questions. So any questions on anything I've covered off so far? I guess we will share these slides as well, Andrew, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're obviously going to share all the slides we used this evening and share obviously the recording of this evening with everybody tomorrow. And please, if you've got any questions as we go along, either put your so-called virtual hand up or drop a question into the chat, or even if you want to come on camera to ask a question, or sorry, unmute yourself to ask a question, not necessarily come off camera, please do so. And we're obviously going to try and leave some time for some Q&A at the end. And to be honest with you, that's always my favourite part of these evenings, when we get to answer your questions, because obviously there are questions, and the point of this tonight is to try and tease out some of it. So what I might do next, I'm conscious of the time already. Time really does fly, as I say, on nights like tonight. What I wanted to do next, and I might need to just double click it again, I wanted to talk a little bit about the course itself. Now, can you see that brochure on the screen, Dermot? Can you help me out? Yep, cool. So I'm sorry about the sizing. It's just, it loses a bit of shape when I try to size it. So before I just flick through the brochure, and the brochure is on the website. So again, I'll show you again. I might just flick to the website. Can you see that there, Dermot, the web page? Cool. So the web page is on, obviously, the PAT website, and obviously on the Navigating Complexity DORA page. We've got the timetable, we've got the brochure, details obviously about the various fees. Obviously there is an advantage to being a member of the Institute. And then I think there's quite a lot of detail around the course itself and the faculty and people involved in the delivery. We're going to be updating that in the next few days. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. But before I just flick through the brochure, because I think the brochure is just a nice way to kind of conceptualize the bigger picture of what we're trying to do, I just really wanted to emphasize that for me and my experience, and again, some people here tonight have that experience. We've got various programs, but the major one has been a diploma in FinTech risk compliance. And really what that has taught me in the design and the delivery is the importance of the interactive nature of online education, particularly with part-time learners. It's reinforced what I always believed about: you need industry practitioners, you need people who are actually doing these roles and these jobs and understand the challenges, delivering the content. And it also reinforced to me the importance of the partnership with the Compliance Institute as the professional body. So I can only tell you or assure you that in terms of the design and development of this program, an awful lot of so-called industry, and I say so-called because the word expert's a bit nebulous, but industry practitioners, people who are actually, trying to figure this out and trying to implement something as complex as DORA. And we freely admit that complex is the word, and obviously our objective is to try and help you, if you like, unpick that complexity in a way that you can, contextualize and start to think about how your particular role or your particular regulated entity needs to think about the challenges DORA presents. And we're very, very candid and open about that challenge. So having said all of that, just real quickly, for those of you who haven't seen this, it's just a nice little brochure. I always like to give a shout out to my colleague, Sarah, in terms of design. There's a little bit, obviously, introduction. I'm not going to read from it, just highlighting it's there on the website. I think that quote from the EU, or the European Commission rather, it really does summarise, the importance of this. DORA will become, fully, if you like, enacted, if that's the right word, in January of 2025. It's already, if you like, in force from January 23. Regulated entities and others have got 2 years to think about how they are going to meet the regulatory challenge associated with DORA. So again, tonight, why are you here? I think you're here because there's obviously a need to so-called upskill, reskill in this area. There's a need for people to get to a place where they have what I'm going to use the word knowledge, and then Alan is going to talk a little bit later about how we see the levels of understanding and education and training associated with this. But most of you, I think, are looking for that essential or more deepened, applied level of knowledge that you need to understand. Some of you will be looking to take it even further, where you literally become the person in the role who's applying and implementing and even becoming the architect of your financial entity or the DORA strategy, how you actually implement what you need for the regulatory requirements that are coming at you come January 25. So the course is designed for, again, as I said earlier, an individualized journey. You're all at a different place, looking to get to a different place. Alan, again, will expand on this a little bit later. What the course is designed to do is help you with that journey and, obviously maybe continue that journey to where you need to be. So just going through the brochure for another couple of minutes, a little bit about PAT Business School. PAT FinTech is part of, obviously, the Board of Business School. We rebranded earlier this year. I think it's safe to say that I've been at PAT for just over 3 years, literally 3 years and a couple of weeks. We're seeing significant growth in this side of the business. I think that there's a reason for that. I think it's because we've set ourselves a very high standard to deliver real, practical, practitioner-driven, industry-based, case study, applied, all these words that you hear said a lot of the time by a lot of providers, but we're committed to the actual delivery, the real quantitative delivery of these types of skills. Why? Because it is my vocation, and I'm lucky to be surrounded by literally such an amazing group of people who help me with that delivery and trying to realise the objectives that we have. But I also think because it's what industry is looking for, and that's again a really important part. There is undoubtedly at the moment already, and I think it's fair to say it's going to be an exponentially greater level of demand for professionals who can talk about DORA and actually think about how your entity is going to implement your strategy to meet DORA's requirements. I think that's almost unequivocal in its truth. So the faculty itself, it's not really just the faculty. This needs a little bit of updating. As I said, unfortunately, Paul is unable to deliver this time. Myself and Dermot are really here to, I suppose, manage the delivery of everything we do. It is a real partnership. that we have with the Compliance Institute, and I mean that in every sense of the word, and that's really important. Michelle, who some of you may know, will sort of take the lead in the terms of the week-to-week delivery, the live online classes. Alan, who you'll meet in probably about 10 minutes or so, will be sort of a little bit behind the scenes, but Alan is very much part of how we've designed and how we intend to try and deliver not just this course, but a new, if you like, a new perspective on what really good applied training or education, whichever you prefer to call it, looks like, and the journey that it can help take you, and how it fits into a broader vision, I suppose, that we have of creating real centres of digital excellence in the risk compliance professional in Ireland in particular, but the EU in general. The timetable is a timetable, so let me just talk about that real briefly. 6 weeks. Each week has a 4-hour live online class. The classes are, as you can see, on Wednesdays. The classes are all recorded. So if you can't make the class in person, which is perfectly understandable, you can obviously go to the recording. One of the things we do to try and help people with that is we always have quite detailed, and in fact for this course probably even more detailed, class plans. So you can see what was covered in the first hour, what was covered in the second hour. Was there a breakout challenge? Was there a case study? Was there a scenario that we were asked to look at? So obviously the idea is to try and make the recording as digestible as possible. And we want the live online classes to be as interactive and discursive as possible. And we're really committed to that, and committed to having the best people in the room delivering that. In terms of the assessment, this is something that Alan might touch on a little bit for me. And again, I can only say that the people who know me probably can almost guess what I'm going to say next. I don't ever want what we do to be about pass-fail, because that doesn't really mean anything to me. What we're trying to achieve is to optimize your learning journey. And in this case, how it obviously specifically relates to DORA itself. So we're not interested in pass-fail. We're interested in engagement. And if you engage, you're going to pass. Okay? And when I say engage, I just mean engage, complete what's required in terms of weekly MCQs / little homeworks. And the real centerpiece of the assessment strategy is a very practical, real applied case study, which really takes DORA out of, if you like, the written word, and really enables you to understand how you would approach actually trying to implement your strategy as it regards to DORA. And I'm going to let Alan talk about that a little bit more. So that's the brochure, lots of contact details, so no excuses for not finding us, general inquiries, and also you'll see on the slides I've included the email address for my colleague Orla. Orla's going to be dealing with a lot of direct inquiries as well, and she has been to date. What I wanted to do next, and I'm not going to belabor this, don't worry too much about that. What I wanted to do next was just show you, if I can find it, a little bit more of a detailed, and I just need to find it. Sorry about showing my email address and everything. I've got a lot of stuff going on here. Sorry, if I just find what I'm looking for. Outcomes of syllabus, that's what I was looking for. Is that on the screen, Dermot? It should say navigating complexity.
No, it's the Compliance Institute slides, Andrew.
Let me come back out and in and apologise for that. It now should say navigating complexity?
Yeah, perfect.
I just wanted to show you this just as evidence, if you like, that we really have spent a lot of time trying to think about what is practical and how pragmatic can we be about 6 weeks. Because clearly 6 weeks is not a huge amount of time. But what we also believe is that for working professionals, and this is obviously something we're going to find out as we deliver this, we don't believe that a lot of you want to sign up for like a 6-month, 12-month course. We believe that you want very bespoke, very focused, if you like, training and education in the areas that you feel you need to reskill or upskill, whatever particular verb or adjective you want to use. So the 6 weeks is for that reason. And the question then is, how can we deliver on what we hope to do over the 6 weeks? So to sort of backstop that, one of the things we clearly had to do, and this will be shared, and I'm sorry to be a little bit proprietary, this will be shared with the people who pay to do the course, clearly, but I'm not going to share it publicly because there's quite a lot of work has gone into this. I just simply wanted to show this to you this evening to demonstrate the level of detail that's gone into the design of this particular course. So key features, which probably actually is similar to what's in the brochure. This is obviously where we get into the detail. Every week, we've broken down every week into, I believe, 4 different components. Every week, you will know exactly what we're going to try and achieve. Are we taking on, so if I just scroll down, week 2, you can see a similar template, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6. So for those of you that have already paid and taken up a place on the course, this will be sent to you tomorrow. Obviously, for anybody else, I hope you understand that there's a little bit of proprietariness about this. What am I trying to demonstrate? I'm just trying to demonstrate a couple of things. One, is there a lot in this? Of course there is. Of course there is, you know. I mean, I'm going to introduce Alan in a moment. Alan is probably the only person I know that's actually read DORA. And if you know anyone who's read DORA, please introduce them to me. It's a significant piece of legislation, if I can call it that. So, of course, there has to be a lot in this. What we focused on is the first week being an introduction, because of course it has to be. You have to start at the beginning. And another thing that I'd like to say to people is we don't assume a high level of, if you like, prior learning or prior knowledge. You know, you are coming into this. Some of you may have, and I mean, excuse the language, some of you may have vaguely heard of DORA, but know that you need to know more about it. Some of you may already have quite a high appreciation of it, but you're looking to really deepen your skill sets and your knowledge around what DORA means. So we deliberately will allow for all of that. So of course, the first week has to be somewhat, if you like, introductory in a good way. The following 5 weeks address the so-called, and I'm going to use that word very carefully because we had an interesting conversation earlier about this, the so-called 5 pillars. You know, people often talk about, particularly the consultancy, the 5 pillars of DORA. There are 5 distinct areas. Let's call them the 5 pillars for now. But the reason that we've set it out over 6 weeks is clearly each of the following 5 weeks will address one of those core pillars, okay? And again, I would always allow for this. Some of you may be particularly interested in the outsourcing aspect of DORA. Some of you may be particularly interested in the incident reporting aspect of DORA. And that's okay. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with giving you a holistic, you know, overview of what's in DORA and allowing you to specialize where you need to specialize. So again, it's really important for us that we understand and we will get to know you. And again, the people who are here tonight will know this is another real core, I think, characteristic of what we do at PAT. We will get to know you. We will meet you. We will understand you. We will understand where you're trying to get to. One of the aspects of the delivery, which I need to add to the brochure, and again, people who have studied with us will know this is something that's important to me, and it became particularly important in the last year or so. We will also have weekly tutorials, like drop-in tutorials. So basically, it could be me and Dermot, it could be me and Alan. It's probably always going to be me, God help you, just because I'm if you like, got the primary responsibility for this. We will have drop-in weekly tutorials. So basically, you'll have an opportunity to drop in and say, look, you know what, Andrew, I really struggled with Wednesday's class. I'm not sure about how to do this. I'm not sure how this really fits in. And, you know, we'll talk about it. We'll try and figure it out. And those, again, and hopefully the endorsement will be there from somebody, will know that I'm the first in the world to say, if you want a one-on-one call, if you want to talk about this one-on-one, I'm the first person in the world to help do that, because that's what we do. That's what we do. That's one of the things that makes us different. So having said all of that, what I wanted to do was just finish up my little segment, and I'm going to lead into what Alan is going to cover off in a few moments. I'm going to give Alan 10 or 15 minutes and then leave some time for some Q&A. I just wanted to welcome you if you've already signed up. I just wanted you also, and this is something I would say all the time, on the basis of tonight, or on the basis of what you do or don't believe you understand about what we're trying to do here, if you want to get in touch with me and if you want to have a conversation about this, more than happy to do this. The reason for that is I always want people to work with us, join us, engage on a learning journey with us, because it's the right thing for you. It's the right thing for you, okay? We're not in the business of just selling courses to sell courses. That's not what we do. We believe in what we do. We believe in you. We believe in trying to create the talents that the industry is demanding, okay? So it has to be the right reason, the right time for you. On that note, just one other thing to mention tonight, Dermot, is we will be running another version of this in October. So the 6 weeks that are beginning in August, we will be running it again in October. So if some of you are listening to this on a recording, or you're here tonight and you're thinking, yes, I'm interested, but I'm not sure I can commit to doing it starting in August, we will 100% be running this program, this course again, probably, I think, did we say the 3rd week of October? I forget the date we mentioned, Dermot.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, I'll finish off as well by saying something else. We want to get this right because we see a potential for you, working professionals, that this type of delivery and this type of learning experience and how it progresses your learning journey, how it enables you to create an edge in your career, which is really what you're all here for. You all want to create that level of knowledge that you have an edge that will enable you to progress internally or whatever in your career path. And you'll be able to help your regulated entity meet its requirements. That's what we're trying to do. We see a tremendous potential that if we can make this work, which we're going to do, by the way, we're going to make it work, for DORA, there's many other areas of the regulatory landscape that we could look at. So before I take it too deep, I just got one thing in the chat, Alan, just to check. Okay, no, that's very good. Thank you. Alan, I'm going to make you co-host and I'm going to hand it over to you, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Let me just get Dermot. Dermot, I have to take you off co-host. Sorry about that.
No worries, Andrew.
Sorry about that. Seems a bit harsh, but there you go. And Alan, you are now co-host, so I'll hand it over to you if I can, sir.
Thank you, Andrew. And I suppose just picking up on particularly one of the things that Dermot mentioned, the way I see the Compliance Institute is it delivers credibility. It's as simple as that. It means that as an organization of 3,500 or so members, it can be credible about a very important topic, and its individual members have credibility because there's transparency about what they've achieved. So a very important organization. I'm a member of a similar organization called the ACCA, founded about 100 and something years ago. And again, it's the same. It brings credibility. It's consistency. It's really easy for employers to hire ACCA members because it's a global qualification and they know what they're getting because they have past experience. It's the same with the Compliance Institute. I just want to talk a little bit about what I'm going to talk about. And there's 6 things I want to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is the 4 words I always associate when it comes to compliance. The second thing I want to talk about is how I feel when it comes to compliance. And I hope how I feel reflects how I think most compliance professionals feel. I don't want to just talk about a new way of doing compliance, completely new approach of compliance, and an approach that only became possible because of cloud computing. Okay? Before cloud computing, everybody worked within their own companies. Cloud computing is the #1 technology change that's happening in the world for the last 10 years and for the next 10 years. Forget about blockchain. Forget about artificial intelligence. Cloud computing is only starting, and there's a lot more to happen when it comes to what cloud is going to deliver. It's also proven as opposed to a number of the technologies I mentioned. So I'm going to also talk, once I've just talked about a new way of doing compliance, about something that Andrew has already mentioned, a digital center of excellence, and what that's about, and what we mean by a digital center of excellence. And then I want to talk about how we learn. Okay? And then finally, I want to talk about what we need to know. And a lot of this is about individuals. It's about you. It's about the people, and making sure we're tailoring what we're doing to the individual. And that in itself is a big technology theme about personalization, making sure that the learning and the conversations we're having are tailored to the individual. So let me just talk a little bit about compliance and the 4 words I associate with compliance. And the 4 words will be particularly familiar: nature, scale, complexity. And Andrew has put into the title of this course, complexity. But it's the 4th word is the real problem word, precision. 4th word is not talked about enough. I have always seen compliance as a precision engineering challenge. And we need to just understand what we mean by precision. Because precision is where most of the feelings about how I felt as a compliance professional at the start of my career, and how I think most people in the industry feel, which is overwhelmed and anxious. Because there's so much going on. There's so much I need to interpret in terms of the nature of each legal entity. There's so many different regulations happening all at the same time. The regulations in themselves are complex, and there's just a lot of reading to just get your head around, and even 1 or 2 articles, rereading of them to try and understand what they're about. And they all have to be applied. They all have to be precisely applied. You are compliant because of an activity that's performed within a regulated entity. So you have to be able to go and say, here's a regulatory obligation and here's the activity I'm performing. And that's what I want to talk about, the new way of doing compliance. The old way of doing compliance was the tick the box approach to compliance, where you accepted that it was all too much. We have no choice but to cut corners. And what we're going to do is we're going to do our best, and we'll try and blag our way through the rest of it. And hopefully we don't get found out. We'll take a risk-based approach, not in the way that a risk-based approach should be applied, but rather what can we implement, because that's the first thing we're going to be asked about. And that's an old way of doing things, which was driven by an old approach to doing things. The new way of doing it is to look at, well, are we actually aligned correctly? And that's what compliance by design is about. Do we have the experts in the interpretive phase? And what is important, I suppose, to mention about compliance by design is compliance is not an automation problem. It's not about automation. And it's amazing how many apps and solutions are developed where the whole focus is to provide a solution that automates DORA, AML, etc. Compliance is first and foremost content management problem. I've got a very complex document with lots of rules, which I need to conduct an impact assessment, and I need to come to conclusions about how I'm going to implement this in our business. And that's what really the whole idea of a digital center of excellence is at the moment, if you want to implement regulatory obligations or DORA, every single financial entity as defined within DORA is on their own. They all have to take DORA into their organization and start figuring it out. Well, the reality is that there are 19 different financial entities within DORA. Most of them do the same thing. Most of them acquire knowledge by hiring people from a competitor. And a lot of the activities they do are very, very similar. So DORA and a lot of what we do in business is standardized. And that's what we're using cloud computing for, is to create and fill the gap between the regulator and the regulated entity by providing content that is much more advanced in terms of interpretation around each of those 19 financial entities. So if you're a credit union, you recognize that there are lots of credit unions who are doing the same thing. So what a digital center of excellence is about is it's about content, it's about context, and it's about collaboration. It's about saying that collaboration fits well with what the Compliance Institute are about because it's a member organization. Let me just focus on those 4 words again of nature, scale, complexity, and precision. And I'm going to start by looking at the bigger picture within what we call the digital center of excellence, and then talk about the precision that we deal with in the digital center of excellence. So what I have on the screen is a rules index, and a rules index in a digital center of excellence, and this is a digital center of excellence for DORA, does really just one thing. It gives you a definitive list of every regulatory document that falls within the scope of what we talk about when we say DORA. Okay? So what do I expect to find? Well, I expect to find the DORA, the Digital Operational Resilience Act. And what would I expect to be able to do with it? Well, if I have a look at this entry here, I would expect to be able to quickly touch DORA by clicking through to the source of DORA if I wanted to validate something. Okay. But I'd also expect to see all of the other documents that are associated with DORA. DORA, which came into effect in January 2023, enables 10 joint consultations, and they're enabled in 2 phases. So the first phase, which was issued in June, so the first consultation has 4 joint consultations, 3 regulatory technical standards, RTS, and 1 implementation technical standard. Okay, and it has an introductory document. And again, if I wanted to be able to ensure that I have understanding of all these documents, I should be able to take each of these documents and go to its source. But here's a problem that is created by the way we do regulatory compliance. The joint committee, the ESA, European Supervisory Authority, consists of 3 different organizations, ESMA, EBA, and IOPA. And each of them have published on their websites copies of the 4 joint consultations. So if I wanted to see the first RTS, it's available on each of their websites. So again, rather than create confusion and get to a point where people are trying to find a copy of that joint consultation, what we're saying is, well, let's actually link to all 3 of them. Because in the end of the day, if I work in the markets area, if I work in an investment fund, I'm going to go to ESMA. If I'm in a bank, I want to go to the EBA. And if I'm an insurance company, I want to go to IOPA. So again, just making it easy, quickly get to the source consultation paper. And all that a digital center of excellence is doing is managing the content and applying what we call the 3-second rule. You can get to anything that you need to find out more about within 3 seconds. So that's the first measure we apply. Okay. So if you want a definitive list...
Just interject there, Alan, just sure. Benefit of the attendees. So what you're demonstrating now is part of what we will offer to people who sign up to the course. They'll have access to what you're demonstrating now, just to be...
Exactly. So what we're doing with the course is now going to be very much aligned with the Digital Center of Excellence. And after giving a quick overview of it, I'll come back to the 2 final points I wanted to mention, which were about how we learn and then about what we need to know. But in terms of the actual course, what we're doing with the Digital Center of Excellence is we're creating all the content and we're adding context into that, but we're also designing all of the courses, such as navigating complexity, so that this is a resource that you use then when you're educating yourself, but it's also a permanent resource. Okay, so when you've completed navigating complexity, you have access to the Digital Center of Excellence for DORA, because we know that next year there's 6 more joint consultations coming along, and they need to be converted and referenced in here. And therefore we have this, and this is one of the issues we have, which creates that overwhelmed and anxious. Oh, I've just done a qualification in DORA, but DORA now has issued 6 more joint consultation. How do I stay up to date? And that's where the excellent work the Compliance Institute do around CPD means that once you're plugged into this qualification, you will then have access to the joint consultations as they come along. So this is a new approach to compliance, a completely different way of doing it. Okay. So if I go to a digital center of excellence, I think of content, context, and collaboration. The other thing that's available here is the ability to collaborate with anyone who, so all this content is available to as many people as you want. It's in the cloud, it's accessible by whoever we want to bring into it. And that means you then have the ability to collaborate. So instead of being on your own, particularly if you work in a smaller regulated entity, you have access to a pool of people who you can check in with them and get an understanding of what their thoughts are on a particular topic. Okay. So what I've done here is I've particularly focused here on just scale, I suppose. There's a lot of documents associated with DORA. These consultations will become regulatory technical standards and implementation technical standards as they are passed. We will then put the final documents in, and the joint consultations will remain for archive purposes. But I'm focused more on the documents at this point. What I really want to do now is I want to go back to that word precision, because everyone can talk forever about high-level compliance and high-level technology, but somebody's job is to make it happen in the real world. That's where we get into precision, where we need to take a document like DORA and start to break it down. So what we've done here is I've jumped from what we call a rules index, which is all the documents that are associated with DORA, into what we call a rules library. And a rules library is just a copy of DORA, which is basically all of the content of DORA, but it's nodal. Okay. Now, nodal means that for every line in the document, there's a node. Okay. So I'm going to jump into the area which I focused initially on when I reviewed DORA, which was Article 8. This is where precision comes into play. So Article 8 is in Chapter 2, in Section 2. And Article 8 deals with identification. And what it says is it has 7 paragraphs, and it says these are all things you need to identify when putting together your risk management framework. So let's jump in and have a look. So the first thing it says is, and some of this is to give, again, this will highlight the technical and precise nature of the rules. As part of the ICT risk management framework referred to in Article 6.1, financial entities shall identify, classify, and adequately document all ITC supported business functions, roles and responsibilities, the information assets and the ICT assets supporting those functions, and their roles and dependencies in relation to ICT risk. Financial entities shall review as needed and at least yearly and the adequacy of the classification and all of any relevant documentation. Okay. Wow. That basically says you have to put together details of all your systems, all your processes, and show all of the interdependencies between everything. Huge, massive task, state of the art in terms of technology management in the space of what's known as configuration intelligence applications, understanding how your systems support your business. That's a huge ask. It's also a great ask because it taps into the most valuable skill set, which builds on the one that Dermot mentioned earlier, which is there's huge demand for regulatory compliance, but there's massive demand for regulatory compliance professionals with digital skills. So DORA is a gateway to understanding technology. It is a huge opportunity for compliance professionals.
Just wanted, Alan, if you don't mind, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm just very conscious of the time, and I always promise people we won't keep them beyond the hour. So obviously that was, a reasonably short tour de force, outline and demonstration. For those people who sign up for the course, myself and Alan, but primarily Alan, are going to work on over the next week or so, maybe a 10-minute recording, Alan, to show people how to navigate. And that's actually, it just struck me there even listening to you, Alan. Even what you just demonstrated, I think, is a really good illustration of what we're trying to do, navigate complexity. So even what you just demonstrated there, I think people hopefully can already see that this is incredibly powerful. And of course, I'm a little bit biased in its utility straight away to be able to break down such a complex piece of legislation into its component parts. You're not sitting there with a PDF on your desk and marking it up. You're not sitting there with a PDF maybe on your desktop marking it up. You've got this really, I think, once you play around with it a few times, very easy to navigate way to look at what you need to know and map back all hopefully the learnings from the classroom environment to DORA itself. So the idea we have, and sorry to cut across you, Alan, just I'm conscious of the time. The idea we have is clearly that the Centre of Excellence can now underpin all the delivery of the courses and teasing out all the learnings and the skills that we're trying to develop. And I personally think this is what makes what we're trying to do here unique. I have to actually give Alan a shout out because he's put up with me for probably the best part of 3 years, working on this idea in different iterations. And we're obviously both really excited to see this tonight really coming to fruition. Just something else, and I'm just going to give it a few minutes for questions. The other thing that Alan touched on there in terms of talking about content and context and collaboration. Collaboration in a different, perhaps slightly sense of the word, is something that we believe in massively at PAT. It's something obviously myself and Dermot have worked on. We believe so much in creating the network, the community, peer-to-peer learning, events, Dermot, right? Supporting our learners. And I just think the Centre of Excellence, again, even the word Alan used, collaborate, is just another way that we can leverage off the power of our collective ecosystem and learning. And I think by helping each other, we're essentially delivering again, to use one of Alan's words, the precision that industry is looking for, and again, I think it's something that we are trying to do, we will do, that makes this approach truly, and it's an overused word, but I think in this case, it's truly innovative and it's truly unique in what it's trying to achieve. And we're just starting tonight. So 4 minutes to 7, I'll just throw it out there. Does anyone have any questions? I know there was quite a lot to take in there. The recording will be made available once we finish. As I said, myself and Alan are going to follow up with, for those of you who sign up, give you a little bit of an onboarding introduction to the app, sign you up, I call it the app, sorry, Alan, Centre of Excellence, and get you familiar with it. And I think, again, it opens up a really unique learning journey for each of you as individuals. The only other thing I had noted that I did want to mention before we finish up, Alan, was we talked a tiny bit earlier about the assessment and not being about pass-fail, about engagement. The other thing I just wanted to reference with that, and this is something, again, Alan has definitely helped me understand more and more over the last couple of years. Each of you that completes, and you will get really detailed feedback as to where we think you are and where we think you could focus and where we think hopefully we can help you, develop, your particular levels of skills as you work through this. So that's all I really had. Dermot, I don't know if you want to say anything. It doesn't seem to be any questions. That's okay. It doesn't seem to be any questions out there. So I don't know if you wanted to finish up, Dermot, with a few final thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew, and really good update as well, Alan. Thanks for that. I think what's really going to set this course apart from other courses that are out there, obviously you'll be ahead of the curve in terms of learning about DORA, but also a lot of courses out there are sort of self-directed learning and things like that. And for something as complex as DORA, as Alan has touched on, Andrew's touched on, what's unique about this course is that It'll be delivered by industry professionals, and will really set you on a course to really and genuinely fully understand, what's involved in DORA, and I think help you as you progress your careers in compliance. But nothing else from my side. If there's any questions, please feel free to reach out. And I guess I'll hand back to you, Andrew.
Yeah, so just final details. And Alan, again, sorry to cut it short a tiny bit there. The course starts on Wednesday, the 23rd of August. The classes are 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock for the 6 Wednesdays that obviously include the 23rd. We will be obviously contacting you, as you know, you've obviously made your you've paid to join the course, and we'll be sending out much more information over the coming weeks, including the recording I referenced with Alan, demonstrating how you can use the app or how to familiarise yourself with the app. We have been very pleased with the level of interest. We are still accepting, people onto the course. That's not a hard sell in any way. It's just the truth. It is what it is. We really want to get this right. So you will be very much part of the journey with us, particularly with the first iteration. And obviously, again, very excited to bring what we think we're already good at in terms of our experience over the last 2 years into now really, mapping with the concept of the Centre of Excellence, which I think opens up a whole new range of opportunities for you and for the profession of risk compliance professionals. So don't see any questions. There's a few people still on. I thank you for your attention. I thank Alan and Dermot for being here tonight. And again, any follow-up, just let us know. More than happy to discuss, and we have a lot of fun banging around ideas and discussing how and why and what we're trying to do. So you're part of that journey with us now. So thank you. Right on the money, 7 o'clock. Mr. Barry, Mr. Kennedy, thank you very much. Everyone else, thank you. The recording and the slides will be out to you probably early in the morning. So thanks, everyone. Happy Wednesday.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you, everyone. Bye.